Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows and adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gotham. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode. I thought this was kind of a pretty neat episode where basically Harvey has to deal with the past. At first it seems like, his ex-partner shows up and kills these other two cops, and I'm like, he's up and walking and stuff like that. There's something and then later on it seems like, I'm going to tie it into it, but obviously you see Arthur's return. Like I said, I'll get into that, but it's I was like, are the dead being resurrected, or is something going on? Even though Diggs wasn't dead, I was like, I thought maybe he was, and that's what happened there, but it turns out, he's still alive, he's still in a wheelchair and everything. So I was like, okay, so what's going on here? And lo and behold, what turns out to be the case is that it's about this case that Harvey and Diggs, as well as those two cops that ended up dying, were a part of years ago. And what's interesting, and I even love Harvey being like, this has nothing to do with that. You remember that dude Hugo Strange had impersonating, basically referencing Clayface, which is like, and Gordon was like, it's not that situation, and we both know it, which is very true. I mean, you were able to literally rip a person's face off that's kind of like a mask and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, because Clayface wouldn't be like that. He can mold his face into whatever. It would have drooped his face, sure, but it wouldn't have been like that. So I thought that was kind of a little nod to Clayface. I thought it was kind of neat. But we haven't seen him since, wasn't that like season 2's finale the last time we saw him? I think. I could be wrong. But nevertheless, it's actually kind of a sad story because basically there's this woman who killed her husband. Harvey ends up telling this story much later on, but it seems like the husband was abusive, but Harvey, a rookie cop at the time, wanting to be detective, wanted to kind of get a collar, under his belt, and essentially ended up forcing Jane to turn on her mom, because it wasn't just, it was the mom and Jane that were both getting abused. And the fact is, also, it turns out, Hugo Strange did this to her because, he made it so basically she can be a chameleon. Basically, all she has to do is touch somebody, and it seems like she gains, a lot about them, their memories and stuff like that. Her entire body changes, and then she peels it away. She kind of reminds me of a skinwalker from Supernatural, if you're familiar with the TV show Supernatural, like that. Because they literally do the same thing. That might even be kind of her whole deal, too. That might be kind of what her whole thing is, but she goes by Jane Doe and stuff like that. It's sad she kind of hides her face and everything. She was so terrified, don't take the mask off. I don't want my face to be shown, because it's like they made that girl into a murderer. It's even sad because Harvey's old partner died too. She ended up killing him. Because Victoria, her mom, ended up dying in Arkham a couple years ago because of everything, and it's just kind of the reason why I think it's such an amazing story, because the thing is, you could tell Harvey, it's one of his biggest regrets. The fact of the matter is, even when it came down, because Jane was like, it's going to come down to you or me, this won't be over until one of us dies, and it's that's so heartbreaking. Harvey ended up wanting to end it, and we finally get to see her face at the end too, and it's she's like, see what you did, how much of a monster I am. She couldn't even stand looking at her own face, because when she looked at her face, all she saw was an ugly monster, and it's such a shame that that story played out like that. But which it sounds messed up when I just said the story's amazing, because it's no, it was amazing because it's Harvey has to confront who he was back then. For him, it's that was the beginning of everything. That was kind of, the other cops told him, I just shut your mouth, kid. But he knew something was wrong, but he just let it slide. He put a little bow on the case and just let it be done. And because of that, just so many people have died now, and just he caused that girl so much pain, And for him, it's that was the beginning of the end. That's where he started going down the slippery slope of when Jim first met him all those years ago, And it's for Harvey, it's that's the path he stayed on until he met Jim, and it's Jim changed him into the guy that he is now. And Jim's I can't give you forgiveness. It's if that's what you want in the situation, because at the end of the day, I don't think he meant it as I can't forgive you for this, Harvey. It's more no, I can't be the one to give that to you. The only one who could have given that to you is Jane, and the fact is, I'm sorry, that's just the sad truth is that's just something he's gonna have to live with. And for Harvey, it's no. What I wanted out of this was I had to tell you the truth, I guess to also let Jim know, that you who I was back then. Granted, you didn't know everything, but now you got a bigger picture of understanding, why I appreciate this partnership and this friendship we had. You helped make me a different and better person, you know? It's actually kind of interesting because I feel like maybe that's not the case, but I feel like, because Bullock, you know, the times you see him pop up and stuff, obviously he's kind of like a little gray area when it comes to like being a cop and stuff like that and certain things. But I mean, even then, it's like, because my thoughts of Bullock, like the thing I always cling to the most when I think of Bullock is from like the animated series from the 90s. But even then, like, I don't remember him necessarily being a cop. He was more so kind of like, he came off a little thuggish, but I don't think he was outright a bad cop. But it's just kind of interesting because it's kind of like, I feel like what you would probably see from Harvey in the future, he's kind of already moved past that to a certain extent. I don't know. Like I said, it's just kind of interesting. Maybe it's just because in my head, this is the only Harvey I've kind of known for the past couple years now. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think about. Because, you know, Jim's not going to judge him because Jim's like, I've done a lot of stuff I regret. And, you know, Harvey's been through his, you know, by his side. Like, this isn't going to be like, oh, we're no longer partners, blah, blah, blah. Because, like, you know, Jim's made plenty of mistakes of his own. So he knows, like, the thing is, like, I can't give you forgiveness because it's like, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm in that same boat, too, living with the shadows that haunt me, you know, the ghosts that haunt me as well, you know. I'm just sad it kind of ended the way it did. So there's that side of things. And I also really like there was a conversation had with the whole Barbara situation. I'm curious, like, well, because at first I was like, is that really Barbara or was that Jane he was talking to the entire time? It's like, no, that was Barbara. But the whole conversation like he had earlier in the episode where it's kind of like, you know, I'm going to be in this child's life, and she's like, because for him, it's like unification is going to happen sooner or later. You got to decide on who you want to be. You this could be your second chance. But she's like, I like who I am, and he's like, sure. Because I think for him, it's like there's a lot of stuff that you don't, you know, you try to pretend like everything's okay, but it's like, no, you don't really like who you are right now either. And she even talks about it later on about like, you know, when the army comes, will they outright arrest her because she was on, you know, Eduardo's list and everything. And he's like, honestly, I don't know. And she's like, you would want that. And he's like, no, why would I want to take you from our baby? Like, you know, our baby growing up with their mother locked up like that. He's like, that's not what he wants. He, you know, he wants things to kind of work out with this whole parent situation, you know. But it is interesting that it did get Barbara thinking, you know. I'm really curious to see what that does going forward, especially, well, because she's supposed to be part of the plans to, you know, with the submarine and everything to get off, you know, get out of Gotham and everything. So I'm curious, like, this new mentality she has, like, what's that going to mean going forward and everything? Like, what their relationship's like going to be going forward, you know? She gathers in information and stuff like that, but it's not like she's been the full-blown criminal that she has been in the past, you know? So, but another interesting side of this episode, there was the whole Bruce and Alfred situation. They went down into sewers. Like, obviously there's all those missing people. They're trying to find that woman's husband, Hank. And I was wondering about that. I was like, because it does pop up in this episode that Ace Chemical stuff is still in the water and everything, sadly, and that causes problems all on its own. I figured, I was like, they made such a point to show it off. It's like, yeah, that's probably not going to get diluted anytime soon. But the fact is that they go into the sewers by themselves. Bruce is like, we should, you know, get Gordon in on this. But like, Alfred's like, no, we can handle this. And lo and behold, they come across something, a hand and stuff, a bite marks. I'm like, the moment that happened, I was like, they're in the sewers, sharp teeth and everything. I was like, Killer Croc? I was like, is that what we're doing here? That's what the dude they found and like took down. It's like, is that supposed to be who that is? Like, I just assumed claws and the teeth and everything, or at the very least, this might be hinting towards like a Killer Croc situation. I don't know. Either way. Also, I really like the fact that Bruce took those, like, I guess, claws from it and just, like, threw them like daggers and everything. Also, Alfred went a little crazy because he started beating the crap out of the dude, even to the point the dude was kind of like, stop, please stop, kind of like, jeez. But sadly, they weren't able to save everyone. They were only able to save Hank. But like I said, I don't know if that's supposed to be Killer Croc himself, or is it supposed to be hinting towards a Killer Croc situation of other people being, you know, because he got, you know, his mind got a little messed up and everything. So I don't know whether it's just his, maybe later on the transformation grows a little bit more given time or something like that. I don't know. But it is interesting what the real reason Alfred was doing all this, and because Bruce figures it out, it's like, you're looking for absolution. Like, you don't have to go so far for it, because he blames himself for Wayne Manor being exploded, because for him it's like, not only was that Bruce's home, it was the last thing he had tied to his family. Like, you know, it was a reminder, you know, last bit of, you know, everything that, you know, his parents, you know. Plus, once again, it was his home and everything, and it's like, now it's gone, and it's just the last thing he had to kind of, I guess, remember his parents too is gone, and that's why, you know, Alfred blames him. But the fact is, he's like, because he's like, I wasn't strong enough to fight Tetch or, you know, Jeremiah, and now because of that you lost your home. But, you know, Bruce is like, well, that's why we have each other, to be strong for each other, you know. That's what family's for. And I was like, and even, you know, Alfred's like, when did you get so smart? He's like, I had a good teacher. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet, that's awesome. Because, you know, Alfred's pointing out, like, you know, the city's going to need some other help, you know, with this whole situation, like, besides just the cops. And Bruce is like, I agree, but there has to be a better way of kind of going about this situation. I was like, Batman. I don't know how he said it like that. But still, I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. Now, the other really interesting thing that popped up in this episode was Arthur's return, which the moment his name, like, I was like, because, you know, he shows up, obviously he's like the ventriloquist. I had to look it up because I wasn't sure if that was actually his name. Turns out that is his name. But because I was like, because I know, like, the entire time he's been called like Mr. Penn or whatever, and I'm like, but isn't the ventriloquist his name Arthur? And then it's like Arthur, and it's like, oh, okay, so never mind. It's just I don't remember them ever really referring to him by his first name. I love that it's like Arnold. It's like, it's Arthur, sir. It's correcting him. But, like, until he pulled out the puppet, I lost my mind. He's a villain I do not know that well. Like, I've seen him pop up in a few things. He popped up in season 1 of Batman's Telltale. In episode 4, he's one of the villains you come across in Arkham, along with Saz and Joker. But he also popped up in Titans, kind of like a cameo, at least the character did. It's in the season finale. Spoilers, basically where a lot of, I won't go too much into spoilers, but when a lot of villains start getting axed, he ends up being one of the villains. They kind of show, like, oh, this particular character died, so that was just kind of all there was to it. But those are the only 2 instances I've, at least recently, of that character. I'm sure he's popped up probably like references to him in the Arkham games. I'm just not that familiar with them, so. But it's actually kind of interesting, you know, because literally Ed and Oswald had that whole argument before, back and forth about everything. And then here, lo and behold, here he is. And you have Penguin being like, wait, what's going on? Come on, Arthur, like, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, Scarface wants to take over his whole operation. Ed tells him about the submarine and everything, because, like, Ed's like, yo, look at you, this is what you do, Oswald. You get close to people and your loyalty to people is shaky at best. And I love Penguin being like, really? You've got room to judge me? Because the whole thing was like, he was pissed because Ed's like, the fact of the matter is, I've been doing all the hard work. Oswald's like, I did all this stuff too. I stole all this stuff. Where he's like, no, you didn't. Your henchmen did, and then you killed them. I even love that he got that new dude who was a mute. And it's like, oh, he didn't last long, sadly. So there goes, I guess, the only muscle you had recently. So that's sad. And but it turns out Penn woke up in the morgue at the GCPD, patched himself up, and ended up in a magic shop. I guess because I wasn't sure about how the whole ventriloquist thing worked for him, like, in the sense of, like, did he have like a psychotic, like, the character in general, not just here in Gotham. But I was wondering, like, I figured it had to be like a psychotic break type of situation where he created another personality. Because, like, if you're unfamiliar with the character, the little bit I do know about it, it's kind of like, oh, this is the puppet does all the bad stuff. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I feel like I remember reading something up about this character. So I feel like it might have been in one of the Arkham games. I remember reading something about this character. Nevertheless, I think it's like, but it's kind of like, oh, it's not me, it's all the dummy. He's the crime boss and everything. I'm just kind of his unwilling subordinate, which is kind of like interesting because it goes in line with what the character has been for Penguin for such a long time. But now that actually plays into the character's history of being like, because he was such a, like, kind of meek person, kind of doing whatever, he created a strong personality. But it's like, no, this stuff that's happening, this isn't me, this is Mr. Scarface, this is his decision and stuff like that. And for him, it's like, I love that Penguin was like, hey, you want to think I'm so bad? I never asked you to kill anybody. He has. And then Arthur's like, well, that is true, trying to talk to him and everything. And I love when it's all said and done, though, Penguin ends up killing the puppet and everything. I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I was like, Arthur's probably going to get the puppet repaired later on, and it's all going to be fine and dandy. Oh, it's probably going to eventually slip back into that, until Ed put a bullet in him. I was like, oh, what? That legitimately surprised me. I did not see that coming. And even Oswald was like, what the hell you do that for, Ed? He's like, the fact of the matter is, Oswald, like, the thing is, I accept you for who you are, and you accept me for being the cold tactician that I am. That's why this friendship of ours works. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting you say. And it's like, we both know he needed to be stopped. I kind of felt bad because I was like, they're running. I love that they kind of run the gambit on like a lot of like Batman villains, just kind of tossing them in there. You know, you probably won't see a lot of them, but a lot of, like, frequently, but some that, you know, they're established and everything. We know the existence with it as canon and stuff like that, so it's just kind of interesting. But I was like, oh, that's kind of sad, because he became, you know, the villain that he's supposed to be, and it's just like, oh, yeah, you're done with already. I mean, to be fair, he surprisingly came back before. Who's to say he doesn't come back again? I don't know. Maybe someone else. You know, maybe we'll see someone else in particular pick up this mantle, or maybe that villain is just pure dead. It's kind of sad that it kind of came down to that, because he was like, oh, you did it, Mr. Oswald. You freed me. How could I ever repay you? Bam. It's like, jeez, that sucks. But the twisted thing is, this situation has just brought Ed and Oswald closer. He's like, Oswald's like laughing and stuff. He's like, I guess that just means that we are meant to be. And they're laughing, ha 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 ha. And it's like, gee, that's quite the psychotic pair. I don't know if I should bring this up. I'll just bring it up just because it's something I found out about recently. I know I'm like years too late to talk about this. I didn't realize at the time that, because I'd completely forgotten until like someone had referenced it. Paul Rubin had played Penguin's dad in the Batman movie, where Penguin was played by Danny DeVito. Is that Batman Forever? The Michael Keaton one with Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Did not know that. So it's like, when he was cast as Penguin's dad in this, it's like, oh, that was a nod to that too. I had no idea, which granted, that was like season 2. So once again, years ago. So it's just kind of interesting. I feel like I should add that in there some shape or form, because I always think it's interesting when casting does that, because like Supergirl does casting kind of like that. You know, her mom, her Earth mom, being played by Terry Hatcher, the actress who played Supergirl in the movie. Her dad, Jeremiah, is Dean Cain, who played Superman at one point in time. Even her Kryptonian mom, season 3 on within his canon and stuff, is played by I'm blanking on her name, and I feel like such an asshole. Erica Durant, who played Lois Lane in Smallville. So just casting stuff like that's always interesting to me. If you know ahead of time a lot of that information, you would catch that. Didn't catch that until now, so it felt like adding that in there. So, but like I said, a very interesting episode. I didn't expect that ventriloquist development really got me. I was like, what? It's a puppet, dude! I got lost my mind, because I didn't know that's who that character was supposed to be. I mean, because this show constantly does that. Like, obviously, like, when I ended up looking it up ahead of time, like, I didn't say anything in the recording, but I was like, oh, when I found out who Butch really was supposed to be, I was like, that's who that character was supposed to be the entire time? Even the fact is, finding out Eduardo's situation, we found out, like, oh, who he is. I'm like, what? I'm losing my damn mind. Like I said, they run the gambit with like their villains and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But nevertheless, that's me going on another tangent, and we've had enough of those in this episode, I'm sure. But nevertheless, I'm very excited to see what the next episode has in store for us as we progress with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.